a message from beyond our world. We've all heard stories of supposed close encounters of the extraterrestrial kind. But what if instead of beams of light or mysterious apparitions, the first contact between humanity and the cosmos came in the form of a knock at our cosmic door? And not just any knock, mind you, but a firm, insistent, mathematically precise rap on our intergalactic doorbell. And we've got the doorbell camera footage to prove it. Well, not exactly. Let me explain. Picture this: a quiet night at the office, or as quiet as nights at the Radio Astronomy Observatory can be. It's August 1977, and Jerry Ehman, an astronomer at Ohio State University, is going through the latest readings from the Big Ear Radio Telescope Array located in the town of Green Bank, West Virginia. His job is to scour these readings for anything unusual, and his evenings are typically spent searching for signals from quasars, which are incredibly bright and distant objects powered by supermassive black holes. As the son of a minister, Ehman was a devout Christian, so it probably wasn't surprising that when he saw something that defied explanation, his first response was to circle it and write one word: wow. It's an understatement to say that Ehman wasn't expecting anything interesting that night, and in fact, he had hoped that the night would be so uneventful that he could go home early and watch the last episode of the final season of his favorite TV show, The Bionic Woman. As a result, he was fairly certain that what he was looking at was some kind of mistake. He circled the letters 6EQUJ5 on the printout with a red marker and wrote "wow" next to them. Then he went to tell his boss, Carl Sagan. Sagan, who was also the host of the popular science series Cosmos, thought it might be a prank by one of the technicians who were known for their sense of humor. But the technicians swore they hadn't tampered with the equipment, and everyone was stumped. The signal had come from a point in the Sagittarius constellation, nearly 2,000 light-years away. It was also coming from a very specific frequency, 1420 megahertz, which is the internationally protected radio frequency reserved for astronomical research. Why anyone would try to fake such a thing, much less broadcast from a quasar, was beyond everyone. And then there was the strength of the signal. The wow signal, as it came to be known, was 30 times stronger than the expected background noise of space. It was strong enough to have come from somewhere within our own galaxy, if not for the fact that the source was so clearly outside it. In other words, whatever had emitted the signal was relatively nearby, like within a few dozen light years, yet it was 30 times stronger than even the brightest radio sources astronomers had ever seen. Something that strong shouldn't exist, and if it did, it would have to be extremely bright, visible to the naked eye. And yet no one had spotted anything unusual in the sky that night. Was it a glitch? Perhaps. But if so, it was a very convincing one. It remained on the printout for weeks before being noticed. And when the team went back to check the tapes of the original signal, they found it right where the printout said it should be. They also discovered another piece of information that made the signal even more intriguing. It had lasted for 72 seconds. That may not sound like much, but it was long enough to have been transmitted intentionally, and it was strong enough to have carried information across the galaxy. The signal immediately became the talk of the town in Green Bank. Everyone was wondering if they should pack up their things and move to Hollywood because it looked like the UFO movies of the 70s were about to become reality. But more level-headed astronomers soon took over the investigation. Over the next few days, telescopes around the world pointed to the location of the signal, eager to see if they could detect it too. They didn't. Days turned into weeks, then months, and the wow signal became an astronomical cold case. Occasionally, astronomers would get a hit on the right frequency, but every time they checked, it was just static. Others argued that the entire thing had been a fluke, while others wondered if the source was so advanced that it had deliberately disguised itself as noise. Still, none of them had an answer for why the signal stopped after 72 seconds. Was it simply too far away for anyone to notice? Or was it something more? Could it be that somewhere out in the vastness of space, there was someone listening to our radio waves, waiting for a reply? Of course, such questions were impossible to answer without further evidence. But that didn't stop astronomers from trying. By analyzing the data that they did have, they learned more about the source of the wow signal, and it wasn't good news. Whatever it was definitely artificial. The wow signal originated from a binary star system, meaning that two stars orbited each other closely like a pair of dancers in a cosmic waltz. The larger star was almost certainly a blue giant many times bigger and brighter than our sun. But the smaller one was a complete mystery. When the researchers examined the spectrum of light coming from the system, they found that it was missing a large chunk of the radio wave band. This meant that the smaller star was absorbing those frequencies, which included the one on which the wow signal had been sent. If this was a natural phenomenon, it was unlike anything astronomers had ever seen before. But that meant only one thing. Whatever was orbiting the blue giant wasn't a small star or a cloud of gas and dust. It was something solid, something big, and it was giving off radio waves on purpose. All signs pointed to a highly advanced alien civilization, but there was no way to be sure. After all, there were other possible explanations for the signal. Maybe it had been beamed directly at Earth by an astronaut who had strayed too far from his space station. Or perhaps it was the dying signal of a spacecraft hurtling through the galaxy, its systems failing one by one until only the radio beacon remained. It was even possible that the signal wasn't a signal at all, but the result of some unknown natural phenomenon that had gone undetected for billions of years. Whatever the cause, the important thing was that it was artificial, or at least it seemed that way. But as the years passed and the search for the wow signal continued, the researchers began to realize that they had been wrong. Whatever had sent the signal was neither artificial nor extraterrestrial. It was organic, very much alive and entirely accidental. You see, the thing about radio waves is that they can travel through the fabric of space-time itself, passing through planets, stars, and even galaxies. But this also means that they can bounce off of things, just like light waves bouncing off mirrors or sound waves bouncing off of walls. These reflected waves are called echoes, and they can reveal a lot about the objects that they bounced off of, like their size, shape, and composition. In fact, astronomers use echoes to map out everything from distant quasars to asteroids hiding in the shadows of Jupiter. But in the case of the wow signal, the echo was much closer than anyone had realized. In 2017, an international team of researchers used a supercomputer to simulate the signal as echo, as it bounced through interstellar space. Their goal was to see if they could recreate the signal as it would have been detected on Earth. What they found instead was a huge statistical anomaly that had nothing to do with space. It was water. More specifically, it was a cloud of water vapor surrounding a star in the Sagittarius constellation. The researchers concluded that the wow signal wasn't a message from an alien world at all. Instead, it was a highly unusual quirk of nature, a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence that happened when the normally invisible cloud of water vapor suddenly became ionized, meaning that its atoms lost their electrons and turned into plasma. This allowed the cloud to absorb radio waves and rebroadcast them like a cosmic megaphone. It was an incredibly rare event, and it couldn't have happened at a worse time. Today, the wow signal is considered one of the greatest hoaxes in modern astronomy. The object that caused it, now dubbed the wow signal star, isn't even in the Sagittarius constellation. It's in the Aquila constellation, a full 60 degrees away. And it's not a blue giant. It's a yellow dwarf like our sun, or maybe a little older. It's also not in binary orbit with anything. There is nothing out there with it at all. It was just an ordinary star in an ordinary solar system until one day it became extraordinary. Scientists estimate that the ionization of the star's outer atmosphere lasted for only about a minute, which means that Jerry M. would not have seen it unless he had gotten home from work just as the signal started. It was almost as if the universe itself wanted to keep its secret hidden. To make matters worse, it was never supposed to be detected in the first place. You see, the wow signal was picked up by Big Ear, which was designed to detect radio signals from quasars. Astronomers didn't start looking for signals from nearby stars until after the WOW signal had been identified as a possible source of extraterrestrial intelligence. And even then, they weren't sure what they were looking for. They had no idea that the signal would only last for 72 seconds, much less that it would be 30 times stronger than the average quasar. In other words, the WOW signal was the first and only detection of a once-in-a-universe event. And since we only had one chance to see it, who's to say that it won't happen again? After all, the universe is a pretty big place. There are billions of stars out there, all of them with their own atmospheres and their own water clouds. It's only a matter of time before another one gets zapped by a cosmic ray or a supernova and starts broadcasting signals to the cosmos. And when that happens, we'll be ready for it. Or maybe we'll be too late. All we'll be left with is a faint glow in the darkness of space and the echoes of a message we can't understand.